Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing an Ancient Gear deck profile. So I'm really excited to do some for you guys because this deck is an awesome OTK deck that is just really fun to be able to play, especially with the new support card that we just got, Ancient Gear Dragon, which is such a powerful card. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notice to become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name scratched in every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing a single copy of Ancient Gear Dragon. Ancient Gear Dragon is a really cool card to be able to play in this deck, but you only need a single copy of it because it's so searchable in this build. This card has the ability it cannot be special summoned, and if you control no monsters or all monsters you control are Earth Machine monsters, you can normal summon this card without tributing. Also, when your opponent activates a spell or trap card or effect, quick effect, you can send to the graveyard an Earth Machine monster or just any machine monster from your hand or face up from your field, or an Ancient Gear Golem from your deck, and you negate that effect, which is awesome to be able to use to instantly be able to negate a spell or trap card with this card's ability. This card is amazing as a one-of in the build, but you really only need a single copy. We then play 2 copies of Ancient Gear Dark Golem. Dark Golem is amazing in the deck because this card is actually a searcher. It has the ability that this card's name becomes Ancient Gear Golem while in the field or in the graveyard. And if this card is normal or special summon, you can actually add up to 2 cards that are Ancient Gear cards or Gear Town from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card, then discard a card, which is such a powerful effect for this card to have to give you a double search. We then play a single copy of Ancient Gear Golem. This card is amazing in the deck as a one-of to help you go for all sorts of fusion plays, and it's really cool to actually be able to play the original Ancient Gear Golem in this deck. But again, you only need a single copy of this card. We then play 3 copies of Ancient Gear Wyvern. Wyvern is really good as a 3F in the deck because this card is basically the Stratos of the deck. If this card is normal or special summon, you get to add an Ancient Gear card from your deck to your hand. We then play 3 copies of Tanker. Tanker is such a powerful 3F in the build and is one of my favorite cards in the entire deck. Because this card has the ability, if this card is normal or special summon, you can actually special summon an Ancient Gear monster from your hand except another copy of this card, ignoring its summoning conditions. Or if your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon it from your graveyard instead, which is amazing to instantly get one of your Ancient Gear monsters out on your side of the field, ignoring its summoning conditions, meaning we can actually summon out the copy of Ancient Gear Golem off this card's effect. This card also has the ability you can target a face-up card that you control and destroy it. Also, for the rest of the turn, all monsters you control that are Ancient Gear Golem or mention it gain 600 attack points, which is such a powerful ability. We then play 2 copies of Ancient Gear Frame. Ancient Gear Frame is really good in the deck, but you only need 2 copies of this card because there's so many different ways of searching cards in this deck. And this card has the ability you can actually discard a card and then add an Ancient Gear Golem or a spell or trap card that specifically lists Ancient Gear Golem and its text from your deck to your hand. And we have a bunch of ways to be able to get to this card, which is why I've actually bumped this card back down to 2 in this particular build. We then play 2 copies of Commander. Commander is really awesome in the deck, but again, you only need 2 copies of this card. It has the ability that you can send an Ancient Gear Golem from your hand deck or your face up for your monster zone to the graveyard to immediately effect resolves normal summon an Ancient Gear monster. And if you normal or special summon an Ancient Gear Golem, you can actually special summon an Ancient Gear Golem from your hand or graveyard, ignoring its summoning conditions. You can also banish this card from the graveyard to actually place an Ancient Gear Continuous Trap from your hand face up on the field, which is a great ability to be able to get our copy of Ancient Gear Duel on our side of the field, which is such a powerful trap card. We then play a single copy of Ancient Gear Box. Gear Box is really cool to be able to search from your deck to your hand because it gives you an additional search, which is really amazing, which is why we just play this card as a one-of in the deck. It is a little bit of a break. You don't want to see it in your opening hand, but it's really good to be able to search because if this card is added from your deck to your hand or your graveyard to your hand, except by drawing it, you can add an Earth Machine monster with 500 attack and or defense from your deck to your hand, which is a pretty cool ability. We then play a single copy of Terverion King Regulus. Terverion King Regulus is really good in the deck as a one-up to basically just summon out to your side of the field because it's a walking negate. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get in to the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is definitely a 1-of in the build because this card just basically stops your opponent from hand trapping you while you're going in for all of your plays. We then play 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent. This card is really good as a 2-of in the build because if your opponent does hand trap you, you can either draw 2 cards, take control of one of your opponent's monsters until the end phase, or look at your opponent's hand and choose a card from it and shuffle it into the deck, which is really cool to be able to do to get the exact cards that you need by drawing them, taking a monster out of the way so you can OTK, or dealing with a hand trap that your opponent might have, while also seeing the other hand traps that your opponent might be playing in their hand so that we can play around them. We then play 2 copies of Ancient Gear Fusion. Ancient Gear Fusion is really cool to go in for all of our awesome fusion plays, especially when you use Ancient Gear Golem as a material. It gets bonus effects, which is really cool. We then play 2 copies of Urgent Schedule. Urgent Schedule is really awesome in the deck to get the exact machine monsters we want onto our side of the field. And if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you can special summon a level 4 or lower and a level 5 or higher Earth Machine monster from your deck in defense position, but their effects are negated, which is not that big of a deal because it's just going to get us 2 more monsters on our side of the field to either link summon or go in for game with a bunch of cool fusion plays. We then play 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet. Droplet is really good in this deck as a 3-of because it basically just has the attack of your opponent's monsters while also turning off their effects so we can go in for game. We then play 3 copies of Catapult. Catapult is really good as a 3-of in the deck, and this card is absolutely amazing. This card is really, while you control no monsters, you can actually target a face-up card you control and destroy it. And if you do, special summon an Ancient Gear monster from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions, which is a pretty cool ability, especially when you pop something like Fortress or Gear Town to be able to summon out 2 monsters to your side of the field off your copy of Catapult and the card that you pop. This card also has the ability that generates a token because you can manage this card from the graveyard and then target a face-up card that you control and destroy it, and if you do, special summon an Ancient Gear token to your side of the field, which is really cool so we can go in for a copy of Ballista. We then play 3 copies of Ancient Gear Fortress. Fortress is definitely a 3-of in the build, and this card is such a powerful card to just give us so much protection with the ability that during the turn they are normal or special summon, your opponent cannot target Ancient Gear monsters that you control with card effects, and they cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects either. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to the activation of Ancient Gear cards or effects, and if this card is destroyed in the spell and trap card zone, you can special summon an Ancient Gear monster from your hand or graveyard, which is a really cool effect to instantly get the exact card that you need onto your side of the field. But this card does so much for the deck, giving you so much protection, and it's really cool as a 3-of in the build. We then play 3 copies of Ancient Gear Advance. Ancient Gear Advance is one of my favorite cards in the entire deck for its artwork alone, but this card has the ability, when this card is activated, you can add an Ancient Gear spell or trap from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card. Also once per turn, you can treat a monster to draw a card, then apply these effects for the rest of the turn, even this card leaves the field. That you can normal summon Ancient Gear Golem or a level 5 or higher monster that mentions it without tributing, which is such a powerful effect for this card to have to instantly get your copy of Ancient Gear Golem to your side of the field. We then play 3 copies of Gear Town. Gear Town is really cool as a 3-of in the build for its a pop effect because it has the ability that both players can normal summon Ancient Gear monsters for 1 less tribute, but the effect that we want on this card is when this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon an Ancient Gear monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard, getting you out the exact Ancient Gear that you need onto your side of the field, like your copy of Dark Golem or any of the other ones that you need. So, that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get in to the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start with a single copy of Rivalry of Warlords. Rivalry is just really good in this deck, so we're pretty much only summoning machines out to our side of the field, so we really only summon 1 type in this entire deck, making this card a really good floodgate. We then play a single copy of Ancient Gear Duel. Ancient Gear Duel is a really good, but just as a 1-of in the build with the ability of Ancient Gear Golem and monsters that mentioned it in your monster zone are unaffected by your opponent's activated monster effects, and if your opponent controls a monster, you can actually fusion summon a fusion monster that mentions Ancient Gear Golem from your extract by banishing monsters from the field or the graveyard as material, including Ancient Gear Golem that you control. Or if you do, you can actually make up to 3 attacks during each battle phase, which is such a cool effect. I love that about this card. It's just really good to be able to play in the deck. So that's it for the main deck, guys. let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, guys, we're going to start with a single copy of Ancient Gear Chaos Giant. This card is really good as a one-of in the deck because it's an absolutely amazing boss monster to OTK your opponent with. It must be fusion summoned and cannot be special summoned by other ways, and it's unaffected by spell or trap effects. Your opponent's monsters cannot activate their effects during the battle phase, and this card can attack all monsters that your opponent controls once each. And if this card attacks a defenseless monster, it does piercing damage, which is an awesome ability for this card to have. We can play a single copy of Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem. Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem is just really cool to be able to play in the deck, and it's just an awesome card overall that does specifically require Ancient Gear Golem to make this card plus 2 Ancient Gear monsters. We then play a single copy of Megaton. Megaton is really good to be able to play in the deck just as a one-of as well, as this card can attack multiple times, just really cool to be able to make. We'll play a single copy of Howitzer. Howitzer is really good because it does burn damage, and it has a really cool ability that's unaffected by other card effects. And during your main phase, you can actually inflict 1,000 points of damage to your opponent, which is great to be able to make this card in time. And it's overall a fantastic card because if this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon an Ancient Gear monster from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions, which is a really powerful ability. And then play a single copy of Bagooska. Bagooska is good in the deck to be able to play just in case we need to slow down the game. We can play a single copy of Heavy Armored Train Iron Wolf. Iron Wolf is really good to be able to make in this particular build because it does help us make a very large Zeus to be able to go in for game. Because this card is ability once per turn you can detach an XZ material from this card to target a machine type monster that you control, and this turn it can attack your opponent directly, which is such a powerful ability. You can play a single copy of Garganta X. Garganta X is really good as a one-of in the deck just to search out the exact card that we need. You can play a single copy of Merrymaker. Merrymaker is really good in the deck as a one-of, so we can make our copy of Gigantic Champion Sargus, which just helps us search out our copy of Regulus directly from our deck to our hand and make a 4-material Zeus. You can play a single copy of Zeus. Zeus is really good as a one-of in the deck, so we can just make this card and board wipe the field. You can play a single copy of Appaloosa just to give us multiple monster negates on the field. 2 copies of Ballista. Ballista is such a powerful card because if this card is link summoned, you can add an Ancient Gear monster or a Gear Town from your deck to your hand. You can also target a spell or trap that you control and a face-up monster that your opponent controls and destroy that card that you control, and if you do, change an opponent's monster's attack and defense to 0 until the end of the turn, making it easier to OTK. You can play a single copy of Platinum Gadget. Platinum Gadget is really good as a one-of in the build just to give us an additional summon, which is really nice. And then finally, a single copy of IP. IP is really nice in the deck as one-of, so we can make our copy of Appaloosa during the opponent's turn. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played an Ancient Gear deck before, you should definitely give this deck a try because it's super fun to be able to play and OTK your opponent. It's absolutely amazing the support that we've gotten for this deck recently, especially Ancient Gear Dragon, which is just such a cool card. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can become part of the notification squad. And we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.